What is going on YouTube? June here, and I'm back again with another Idle's Heroes video. Today we're going to be taking a look at Vesa and that big question. Should you build her or not? Let's get into it. Alright, so let's get to that question. Should you build Vesa or not? Short answer, it's going to be no. But the long answer, it's a little complicated. So let me try to explain this. We are going to use a tier list to actually categorize all the Transcendent Heroes that are out right now. And hopefully by me explaining the reasons why I think certain heroes should be input in certain tiers, that'll give you a better idea of how I come to this conclusion. And then you can either agree or disagree with those reasons. I think if you have those reasons and the next hero gets released, I think it's supposed to be Aspen in the fall, you can use the same pretty much fundamentals and apply that to hero choices in the future. So long as you know roughly the tier on where the hero is, you'll be able to make that decision yourself. Let's get into the tier list and break down actually where I think heroes fall as far as the Transcendent Heroes goes. So at the very top, at the A tier, we are going to have Sword Flash Shia, Sword Flash Jaya, whatever you want to call her. And in the B tier, we are going to have Queen as well as Jara. It should come as no surprise because those are the best supports that are actually going to amplify Sword Flash's abilities. And in the C tier, we are going to have our girl Vesa, and we're going to have Asmo. I put them down here because they are more PvP centric heroes. That is where their skills are highlighted, and they are not that much used for PvE. And that is going to go to my next point and my reasons why I think you shouldn't be building Vesa. And that is because the way I play this game is always through the PvE lens. So let me describe this a little bit further, and these will be my reasons why I think you shouldn't build Vesa, as well as any future hero that doesn't really hit this criteria. So the three reasons I believe in PvE is because of the first is going to be the enjoyment, which is a completely subjective experience. It's all on you whether you enjoy that type of game mode or not. And for me, PvE is what I enjoy. The second one is going to be this concept of resource engine. And the third one is just a direct comparison of what PvP and PvE looks like for me. Now, this concept of resource engines, right? I think the best way is I can give you an example. It's kind of just like a bank account, right? So you have a bank account, you put in $100, it's got like 1% interest, and then after a year, you're going to get $1 back. Well, if you look at the PvE content in Idle Heroes, you can think that DH Games has created these quote unquote bank accounts in the game, and what you're supposed to do is invest into your heroes, make them stronger, get them gear, artifacts, stones, etc., and then get them to actually complete or solve these PvE or quote unquote bank accounts, and then you get these rewards, right? That interest. And the more of these bank accounts you get, or more of that content you clear, you are going to be getting more rewards. And then what you're supposed to do is use those rewards and then invest in your heroes, clear more content, and you kind of see where that's going, right? And then when they release new content, you'll have accrued more resources to make that content a little bit easier. So you got like CLN, Broken Spaces, Aspen Dungeon, Void Vortex, the list goes on, but there's a lot of these bank accounts slash PvE content where I feel you are getting and making these resource engines that create this value. And the more of those you have, I would argue, the easier it is. So that is the second point. And the third one is just a comparison of what PvP and PvE means to me. So when I look at PvP, I think of it as like a kind of zero-sum game. So that just means that someone is winning at the cost of someone losing, right? So the person that's in first place just makes more than the person that's in second place. And if you're second, third, fourth, and so on, you've done your own version of losing, right? Compared to the person in first place. So you aren't getting the same rewards, and it's just a competition. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just the way I see PvP. I also see PvE, on the other hand, as this thing that is kind of a solitary endeavor. You're doing yourself, right? And you're really just playing against what the devs have designed, the puzzles that they've created, and you're just trying to solve them. So there's a sense of like finality. And for me, that's where a lot of the enjoyment comes from. It's from this fact that I can look at PvE kind of like a math question and try to solve that question, and when I get to solve it, it's like one and done. There's a sense of finality. It's done, now let's move on to the next thing. Whereas in PvP, it feels like it's always in flux. It's always changing. On any given day, it could be different, and on any given day, your enemy could be running a different team composition. and it fluctuates pretty often when new heroes get released. So that's like what really defines the PvP meta. Now, artifacts and other stuff that they put in the game will influence what heroes are used and the teams that people choose to use, but typically people are going to change the meta or find ways to adjust to the meta when new heroes get released. So that's the like big thing for PvP. PvE, on the other hand, is influenced by expansions and reworks, as well as just brand new content being introduced to the game that is classified as PvE. So that's what really kind of is the driving force of changing PvE content. So you guys hopefully understand the little difference between the two and why I believe in the resource engine, because the resource engines in PvE, again, help you kind of like maintain and get ahead on your account and keep building. And PvP is more of just like using what you have on the account to compete against other people's accounts. Unfortunately, because we play a gacha game, you're going to have limited resources when it comes to the decisions you can make to build which hero. And I think that's why a lot of people have been asking, is it worth to build Vesa? Is it worth to like swap this for Vesa? Should I build Vesa, right? These Transcendent heroes are very strong, but you have limited supplies and you need to make the correct decision for yourself and find out, should you be building new heroes? And in PvP, this is very limited. Right? There are very few people in the game that can just pivot and change strategies and try something out for a couple of days and say like, this isn't working, now I have to adjust, right? In PvE, a lot of the solutions are laid out for you, and your only real goal is to collect resources again and then build your team up so you can get those heroes together to clear the content. It's never a shifting thing. Right? There's a clear-cut goal and you just have to get there with your team. Whereas in PvP, that's a lot harder. That's constantly shifting. So you're always trying to adjust, make these micro adjustments against what people are using in the meta. So I think that's what makes it a lot more harder for people to compete there, but I totally understand why people enjoy it, because it's fundamentally the same thing. You're adjusting, you're tweaking, and you're trying to beat the game, right? It's just a lot harder for the majority of players. So I don't want to recommend heroes, Transcendent heroes specifically, that are going to specialize in PvP. I'd much rather bias heroes that are in PvE because of that mechanic of the resource engine. So to touch back on the tier list, I put these heroes that I would call like hybrid heroes at the very top. Again, it's not that they're not good in PvP, and it's not to say that the heroes at the bottom of the list aren't good in PvE, right? I'm just saying that these heroes that are hybrid heroes have this ability to do PvE content primarily, but they're also very good or competitive at the very least in the PvP side of things. So you get to kind of play both sides. Now, they're not specialists, and that's where they'll fall a little short. If you compared a team, for example, right now in Hyper Endgame, what we've been testing is Vesa in these PvP teams, and it's clear that she is a dominant force in PvP. So if you were to flip this tier list on its head, you'd probably have a good indication of what is good in PvP, or what I think is good in PvP, and you would understand that, okay, so the stronger heroes are probably Asmo and Vesa. That synergy is really strong. That would make them stronger in PvP than what a Sword Flash would do with a Queen, for example. So that's just an example of how I thought I would put this tier list together, and just the reasoning of why I've put certain heroes in certain tiers. So another way of looking at this is, and I'm pretty much just asking myself this whenever I see a new hero, I ask to myself, what type of content does this hero unlock? And when I'm thinking of the content in question is going to be PvE. So if I'm struggling to clear Tower of Dreams, as you see here, or I'm struggling to clear a certain vortex thing, I think to myself, what hero would allow me to actually make this easier, or what would counter the one bottleneck that I'm encountering? And so in Vortex, we tested a lot of Belrain and some Cruz. We did some Vesa testing today. All of those things actually helped me try to understand whether the hero is worth building or not. So to wrap things up, let's just say that Vesa is an amazing PvP hero. But the way that I currently look at the game, and the way I'm going to continue looking at the game, makes me think that she's not a hero that I need to build in a rush. Now, I will say she's amazing in PvP. She probably has one of the highest upsides moving forward in the game, because as heroes get more stats, more HP, more attack, her shield can get bigger, can provide more protection, all those good things. But as I am a PvE player, I really can't sign off on saying you should build her as your first, second, or third Transcendent hero, unless, of course, you find her super enjoyable. Then don't let me stop you. She's a good one, she's a cool one, she has a bunch of great abilities, but for PvE, it's gonna be a pass. Hopefully you guys found this information useful. We're still growing the channel, so if you don't mind leaving me a like, subscribe, a comment, that is awesome, and I appreciate it very much. Until next time, peace.